All right, welcome back to another Tool World podcast. I'm your host, David Ju, and you can't do that. That's Tool World Plus.
Oh, well, they can always jump into our Tool World Plus.
Yeah. Anyways, thanks for jumping back into another Tool World podcast.
Hey, David, do you remember how we started the podcast?
I think you just asked me.
Just asking it, just mostly talking.
Yeah.
Because there's this thing called the podcast.
Mm-hmm.
Now we're doing it video.
Yeah.
But yeah, someone was asking, can we see some demonstration? And said, well, this is our podcast. It's supposed to go on our podcast where people listen to it. But anyway, if people do want to watch some of our stuff, go to our Tool World Plus. That's a little plug for our Tool World Plus.
The link below.
Link below. Anyway.
This week, we're going to be talking a little bit about self-defense demonstrations, particularly because we have, black belt tests and, we do the usual thing, Dalian, patterns, kicking, step sparring, but we also do some self-defense demonstrations, but we also try to veer away from calling it a self-defense demonstration as well. We generally call it more of a Taekwondo demonstration, but we wanted to talk about why we do so and why you want to do it and why you want to call it like that.
Yeah, so I think that it's interesting. Not everyone has a self-defense curriculum. I think a lot of schools do have that now to supplement what is being taught in class. Like, for instance, knife defense or maybe gun defense or, holds, joint attacks and stuff like that. If you look at the encyclopedia by General Che, there is a section kind of on self-defense in a way, but really Taekwondo is geared towards self-defense. I mean, foot, hand, art. And so a lot of things are really dealing with self-defense, right? Now, you're going to have a lot of arguments that this doesn't work or that doesn't work, and I've seen a lot of that. And that kind of leads us to a different topic, maybe the Do. What is martial art? What is Taekwondo? Most of my Taekwondo career over the last 40 plus some odd years, I guess, there has always been self-defense, right? So maybe at a white belt we learn how to do releases, and maybe yellow belts we're doing maybe some joint locks or something, right? I just remember one time General Che, I was at one of his seminars and he was talking about step sparring and what are the most important sparring. Oh, everyone kind of says, free sparring. Free sparring's the best. That's. But he says, well, yes, it's good, but that really that's more of a game because you're limited to what you can do. And what struck me the most was that he said, 3 step sparring, 1 step sparring, most important. And I was like, why? And he kind of explains it, right? 3 step sparring is you got brand new students who don't know much about Taekwondo, and it just allows them to work with somebody in a safe environment. But 1 step sparring says, it should be someone just attacks you. How do you respond? So you demonstrate different attacks and you respond. And so when I think about 1 step sparring, I think of it like as self-defense. Hey, it doesn't always have to be a punch, doesn't always have to be a kick. Someone could grab me and I have to be able to respond to that, right? Someone could I could have them, okay, stand behind me and give me a bear hug. And we do the 1 step sparring from that position. And so to me that becomes more realistic. It's like you're just out on the street and all of a sudden here comes a punch. Right. How do you respond to that? And you got to be able to move quickly and to be able to respond to that. And so I don't think that there was really a self-defense curriculum. I mean, in the encyclopedia, most of the work is really done through the techniques and the patterns, if you look at it. And if you look at the encyclopedia, you're looking at, obviously have ground techniques and, maybe some grappling a little bit, but not extensive, right? There's a lot of arguments for that too, I think. Obviously, different martial arts spend a lot of time doing that. We spend a lot of time doing different things, right? So if you're spending a lot of time doing on the ground, but maybe they can't break, right? That's just different. That's all. Right. Not to say it's good or bad. So we have come to the point where we had all of these different ranks have different self-defense requirements. And then for the black belts, we decided, okay, we're going to have you do a self-defense skit.
Whatever you want to do.
Whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
Show us some self-defense. And so it's like, I'm kind of thinking, well, isn't kicking, blocking and kicking, and isn't that self-defense?
Mm-hmm.
You know, so you're kind of just putting yourself in that situation. And so I kind of think of it as more really as a demonstration of what you've learned in Taekwondo.
Mm-hmm.
Taekwondo demonstration. I like it. I like calling it that myself because it's really a demonstration of what you've learned in Taekwondo,
Mm-hmm.
as opposed to a self-defense skit or
Right.
self-defense demonstration, whatever you want to call it.
Do you feel like there's any dangers in calling it a self-defense demonstration?
Maybe, I'm not sure. I think you're always going to get somebody that says, oh, that stuff doesn't work.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to get clobbered. If that was the real self-defense, it's not happening. You know,
Right.
I get it. You know, I mean, probably there's a lot of things that I wouldn't do in self-defense, right? I mean, some techniques, I mean, would you ever really do it? It can happen, I think. The chances are not high,
Mm-hmm.
I think, you know. I mean, you'd have to practice certain, like circular block. I mean, what's the probability of you actually being, I mean, it happens.
Yeah.
I mean,
That scooping action
is that scooping
possible.
is possible.
It's possible.
Absolutely. I remember having a student, we were doing some sparring, and he got so excited. He says, I just did a circular block in sparring. It's like, whoa, that's very cool. All right.
Yeah.
But it can only happen because you train it, right? You know, it only can happen if you do it. And it's not just talking about it, and it's not just watching it. It's not just doing it once in a while, but it's actually just doing it, right?
Mm-hmm.
For instance, that bow wrist technique that I demonstrated or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And you get a lot of comments, well, that's not self-defense. No, maybe not,
Mm-hmm.
right? However, if you can do certain things, your body can do certain things, it has certain ability,
Mm-hmm.
that's got to make your self-defense more effective.
Mm-hmm.
You might not do these techniques,
Yeah.
but when you can do certain things, and if you can kick high, I'm in self-defense, I'm probably not going to kick high,
Yeah.
right? Would I even do a reverse turning? I don't know, maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe not. It just depends on situation.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's definitely not the movies. So you've got to, techniques have to be appropriate for the situation, right? And so, but if you can do 360 reverse turning kicks or 540, whatever, and you may never ever do it in actual self-defense, but your ability to do those things has to give you a lot of weapons or tools, or even it just says that you train a lot. Breaking 10 boards, 4 boards, 5 boards, it's nothing more than a demonstration,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Right.
What really counts is that when you hit your target, if you can break 2 or 3 boards, you're probably going to cause a lot of damage on an individual anyway,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so that's important as well. If you don't practice, if you don't test your power,
Mm-hmm.
right, then how do you know that you can actually utilize it in real life? Yeah, there's definitely some things that you cannot practice. Well, we don't necessarily do in the regular Taekwondo curriculum, where you're dealing with knife or
Mm-hmm.
baton, or I kind of think that if you can intercept a hand or foot, theoretically you should be able to intercept some type of weapon.
Mm-hmm.
I always kind of think of a weapon as really an extension of that individual's arm.
Right.
And so, but different obviously, because you can't just block the weapon, because that weapon either
Yeah.
could cut you or it could break your arm or whatever.
Mhm.
And so now what we're talking about is distance, right? Where it's hand to hand, the distance is different. When someone's got a weapon, then that's a different distance, right?
Mhm.
And you're going to have to move in a little bit closer, or whatever it is that you need to do to intercept that.
Mm-hmm.
But fundamentally, I think it's still very similar.
All right. Well, let us know your thoughts on, is it called a Taekwondo demonstration or self-defense demonstration at your school, or
Self-defense skit.
self-defense skit, or I know a lot of schools, kind of do something like that, or maybe they do some
Or is it
prearranged free sparring.
Yeah, maybe it's really pre-arranged free sparring.
But thanks for jumping into another Tool World podcast. Don't forget to be safe.
Keep training.
I'll see you guys next week.
Taekwon.